Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered. Three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, Armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Monday. You know what that means. It's time for the Impact Zone. Now, normally on the Impact Zone, I would be joined by the regular J. However, the regular J is still on the road home from Melbourne. Still probably quite very hungover given the state he was in the other night. And also, his laptop ended up on the floor at some point, and he needs to get it repaired, so he's not going to be available for this week, possibly next week either. I would also usually get Big Boy Mikey or CJ or someone to fill in, but everyone is still recovering from the weekend. I guess I'm the only one who had the sense not to continue drinking after I got completely blotto at MCW on the Friday night. Sense. I say it like it's a matter of sense. I spent all my money at MCW on Friday night, and so I was completely sober for the Super Showdown show, which will probably reflect in my review. That's coming tomorrow. We're going to sit down and do a Super Showdown. Tomorrow is actually our 100th episode. Can you believe it? We are at episode 100, and it just happens to line up perfectly with the Super Showdown Spectacular. Now, we wanted to do the Super Showdown episode for today. We were going to record it yesterday, but I forgot to take my microphone to Melbourne. CJ took his microphone to Melbourne, but everyone was way too hungover. So, here I am talking Impact all on my own. I watched it on the plane back from Melbourne to Adelaide, and then while I was waiting for boarding and all that sort of stuff. So, it's fresh in my mind. Let's run through everything that happened. This is probably going to be a quick episode today, as I have a lot of emails to get to, a lot of news stories to read, and just a whole bunch of craziness to catch up on, because I sort of didn't do anything over the weekend. I just hung out with a bunch of friends in Melbourne watching some really awesome wrestling. Now, let's get into Impact. After the usual recap, we start the show. We are in Mexico City, Mexico, once again for these Impact tapings. After the recap, we start with Rich Swann versus Matt Sydal. Sydal is still looking to open Swann's third eye. I don't know, the commentators were talking, Josh Matthews was talking about Ghostbusters being on Pop. Like, straight after Impact, there's the iconic movie Ghostbusters. I mean, Ghostbusters is a great movie, don't get me wrong. I love Ghostbusters. But what the hell kind of network is Pop that they're going to go from Impact Wrestling into Ghostbusters? So strange. At least they didn't make Impact dress some characters up like Ghostbusters and do some kind of weird ad like WWE do with the KFC stuff or whatever. That would have been even weirder. But, you know, it is what it is. So, Sydal does his whole bit. He goes under the ring, baiting Rich Swann to look for him, leading to the cheap shot from under the ring. Sydal feigns an injury, and the ref checks on him. As the ref is checking on him, someone pops up on the apron and powerbombs Rich Swann from the apron into the ring. Sydal picks him up, hits his new finisher. They still haven't given this move a name, and it's kind of frustrating because I don't know what to call it. But he hits his new finisher. It's kind of like a fisherman's reverse fireman carry, so torture rack into a slam. I have no idea what it is. But he hits the finish, he gets the win after the interference from the person who we see now, after this has all gone down, is All Ego Ethan Page. All Ego Ethan Page, of course, took part in All In. That's probably where Don Callis got him on the radar. And yeah, he took part in All In. I don't know much about Ethan Page outside of that. Like, he's worked the indies, I suppose, and I haven't seen much of his stuff in terms of actual wrestling. I've seen a few promos here and there and a few highlights on YouTube and what have you, but nothing major. It's pretty cool that he's with Matt Sydal, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. We then get an OVE camcorder where Dave Christ is going mental because of the Lucha Brothers' magical powers. Callahan says they don't have magical powers, and he's not scared. He says they don't want to wait for Bound for Glory. They're going to call them out tonight. We then see Eddie Edwards sitting backstage, and he answers his phone thinking it's Alicia, but it's actually Moose calling from Alicia's phone, and he's all creepy saying that Alicia is with him. This is one of those scenes it's shot like a movie, so the close-up is on Moose's like lips as he's talking on the phone, like it's a gangster movie. It was really cool. I like that kind of thing. It's like a nice little touch that separates this from WWE, that makes this different. It's not quite Lucha Underground level, but it's not meant to be. I think this is meant to be like the bridge. It's like the in-between level of cinematic storytelling in wrestling, and I really like it. Anyway, Moose tells Eddie to meet him at some sort of bar that got closed in 2014. I don't know, some kind of inside joke. Then Scarlett Bordeaux arrives to a huge pop from the Mexican audience. They've given her a very warm reception because she also has one of the most watched videos ever in AAA history on YouTube. So Scarlett Bordeaux is over in Mexico, I suppose. So she rocks up to a huge pop, approaches the commentary desk, and Josh Matthews and Don Callis both fight over who's going to help her. It's really funny the way they all play up this effect that she has on people. It's not just men, because even Katarina was sort of taken a little bit by her. So the way they play up this effect that she has on people, this real femme fatale power that she holds over them, is very interesting, and it's one of the best things about the character. I really, really cannot rave enough about the Scarlett Bordeaux character. But she joins them on commentary. Don Callis spills his water, and she points out that he's wet, but says it's okay because she is too. These are the things that Impact are doing at the moment that WWE won't go near with a 10-foot pole anymore, and it's really good to see that happen, and to have that hole, that void filled by something. So Josh Matthews asks her why she's out there. She says that she's the hottest thing in Impact Wrestling, and she wants to give back, so she's out here scouting for talent. We see Eli Drake's open challenge, so she's out here to scout Eli Drake specifically. She says he looks like a star, he's got the muscles, she's interested in Eli Drake, which honestly makes sense. I could see that working. He might be too self-absorbed to really fall under her sway, though. It'll be interesting to see. So Eli Drake comes out, says he's looking for a Technico whose keister he can kick. He says that no one understands, he just can't stop. No other luchas can lucha like he luchas. And then the open challenge is answered by La Parka. Now, I'm not sure if this is the original La Parka, because they were calling him La Parka, and I'm pretty sure La Parka got handed down to his son, the original El Hijo de la Park, and now he is L.A. Park. But I could be confused. It's a lot to follow. If Big Boy Mikey was here, he'd be able to set me straight. But this was La Parka of some kind. I remember the La Parka outfit. I remember when I was a kid thinking how badass La Parka looked, but now I was just like, he just looks like a overweight man in a really bad skeleton onesie that I would put on my 2-year-old. It was kind of odd, because I remember being a kid thinking he was so cool. Like, I always chose La Parka in WCW vs. NWO Revenge because he would automatically start with the chair, and it gave you that advantage. So, and the chair came into play in this match. So Eli Drake open challenge is answered by La Parka. Apparently it's a no DQ match because La Parka, Eli Drake brings the chair in, but La Parka ends up getting it, and then Eli Drake bails and gets himself counted out, and he leaves. And Scarlett Bordeaux is talking about how she's interested to hear what his mindset is after that match, so she wants to go backstage to talk to him, so she leaves as well. We then cut backstage to the clubhouse. LAX is with Conan talking about King trying to get in his head, and then King and the OGs show up and try to get in his head. So the OGs grab the belts, continue to taunt them. Conan's not falling for it, of course. He says, I practically raised you, King. I know all your tricks. And then King is like, yeah, well, you raised a snake. You raised a snake. What's this you got? You got shots? And they pick up their glasses and they drink the OG. They drink LAX's shots. But then King spits his into Conan's face, and then Conan just stands there all wet and does absolutely nothing because he doesn't want to break the ceasefire and end up in a vat of acid. That's a real thing. That's a real thing that was said. Apparently, in this wrestling show, their gangster bosses will put them in a vat of acid if they hit each other. So he's not going to retaliate because, acid is way scarier than the OGs. We then get a promo from Matt Sydal and Ethan Page. Ethan Page tells Rich Swann he missed a golden opportunity to have his third eye opened, and then they challenge Rich Swann to find any partner in this business and bring them to Bound for Glory for a tag team match. So that's very interesting. You got to wonder who Rich Swann's going to find. I've already seen people online saying, it's going to be Enzo. It's going to be Enzo. It's not going to be Enzo. All right. Enzo has said he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. He's doing his weird consensual penis rap thing. It's more likely to be Big C. You know, Big C's on the indie scene cutting promos. But no, I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe Taiji Ishimori likes to be mystery partners sometimes, so maybe it'll be Taiji. I don't know, but Matt Sydal and Ethan Page at Bound for Glory are going to have a match with Rich Swann and a mystery partner. Very exciting. Very exciting. You got to think that'll get put in the opening spot, really ramp up the crowd with all the exciting high spots. It's going to be fun. Then we get the Murder Clown versus Joe Hendry match with Katarina and Grado at ringside. Joe Hendry comes out and he says he's found some disturbing footage of Katarina and Murder Clown, and plays another one of his songs. His songs, we love Joe Hendry here at the B+, and his songs are hilarious. And this one, he sings, I may not be a pirate. So he's wearing the pirate mask, and he's got Grado wearing the Katarina mask, and he's like, I may not be a pirate, and we may not be related, but I am a murderous clown, and that can't be understated. It's just stupid fun. Like, it's not even good. Like, the rhymes aren't even good. It's just hilarious because he's wearing a mask and just acting like an idiot. And I like that in wrestling. I like a wrestler who's not afraid to look like an idiot, you know? That's why I always loved Kurt Angle. You know, because Kurt Angle could get it done in the ring, but then he could put on that stupid little cowboy hat and play that little guitar, and he was not afraid to look like an absolute moron. And I love that in a wrestler. So, I mean, that's just me, though. That's my personal preference. A lot of people hate that kind of thing. Anyway, Murder Clown wins this match handily. I like Josh Matthews pointing out Grado's Louis Vuitton. I don't know if it was a bag or his glasses or something. He had some sort of Louis Vuitton item, and Josh Matthews asks if he got a raise, and Don Callis is like, no, it's just all the money he was spending on Katarina is now just for him. You know, there's a lesson there for any young people watching. I just thought it was really funny. Don Callis and Josh Matthews have really started to find a groove and a rhythm and a chemistry, which is actually adding to the show now, where previously, in previous years of Impact and TNA, commentary on Impact, it used to take away from the show in a big way. Commentary has been horrible for a long time. They're finally starting to turn that around. The shift came when they went to live commentary, when they started sitting actually at ringside instead of just doing it in the studio after the taping. Sitting at ringside provides a whole new energy. We've talked about this a few times on the podcast, but in addition to that energy, it's sometimes, like, Don Callis and Josh Matthews have only been working together for a few months now, and so those two, like, finding a groove and finding, you know, getting to know each other, getting to know when to lay out. It's the same on the podcast, you know, you get to know the person you're talking with, you get to know when to lay back and just let them go, you get to know when it's appropriate to jump in, you know, you get to play off each other with your little inside jokes, and the more you hang around each other, the more you talk to each other, the more natural it becomes, and the more it flows and sounds good and funny and entertaining, and these guys are getting there. They're not quite there yet. I wouldn't put them on the list of great teams yet, but they're getting there. And I originally was like, just get rid of Josh Matthews, you know, but he's turned a corner. He's being far more entertaining. Just call more moves, Josh. That's your job. Don Callis is there for the fun stuff. You do need to call more moves. You definitely need to give a name to Matt Sydal's finisher. Anyway, bringing it back, Murder Clown defeats Joe Hendry quite easily, hits the big splash from the top rope, gets the win. After the match, Murder Clown brings the table into the ring. Grado tries to reason with him, but Katarina hits the low blow, and then Murder Clown hits the splash again, this time through the table onto Joe Hendry. So you gotta think Joe Hendry's gonna be potentially out for a while. It's curious to see where this one's gonna go. After that, we get a follow-up cinematic with Eddie Edwards arriving at the bar. He's ready to fight. He's got his kendo stick. Moose grabs Alicia and tells him to put the kendo stick down. Again, this is shot cinematically. It's really well shot. It's fun to watch. Alicia says, listen to Moose, so he does. He puts down the kendo stick and sits down. Moose asks Eddie where the hell he was when he was in hospital. Eddie tells Moose that he's just a means to an end for the other guys. They're not really his friends. He admits that he messed up. He admits that he was a bad friend. And he agrees that Moose should kick his ass. And they're going to do that at Bound for Glory, but he doesn't need to involve Alicia. He doesn't need to do this right now. He calls Moose by his first name, which just enrages Moose. Moose stands up, slaps the table. This gives Alicia the chance to splash water into Moose's face, and then Eddie jumps on the offense and attacks. Killer Cross is here, though. He jumps in from behind, and then Alicia throws Eddie the kendo stick, which lets him get the upper hand. They get outside to safety, and he calls Johnny Impact on the phone and lets him know Aries is alone right now. Moose had a plan. He got me with Cross, and now he's alone. Now's your chance. Go get him. Really interesting turn of events. I still think it's incredibly weird the way they use the Alicia Edwards and Eddie Edwards marriage and relationship, because there's no rhyme or reason to when they're going to care about each other, when they're not. Eddie was portrayed as only caring about the title not too long ago, not caring about her at all. She's portrayed as being sick of him, but then all of a sudden not wanting anything bad to happen to him. It's very inconsistent, and I feel like these are two people that I would not want around me in real life. They have no idea which way is up and which way is down, and it makes it confusing as a viewer. Like, I don't know whether to care about them because I can't tell if they care about each other. It's just a bad relationship. It's a bad on-screen relationship, and it needs to either go away or become consistent. Anyway, we return from the break, and Johnny is looking everywhere for Austin Aries. He manages to make a poop joke. You know, he looks in the toilet. Oh, he's not pooping. He finds another short person backstage. He's like, oh, you're a short person. Oh no, that's not you. That's so then he, classic Johnny Impact, just, poop jokes and short jokes. Then he comes to the ring and he calls out Austin Aries. He just wants to have a conversation about Bound for Glory since Austin is without his lackeys. Austin comes out and he's limping with his arm in a sling, and Aries is like, okay, I'm here. Yeah, I'm alone. I suffered injuries when you hit me in the head with the title last week, so apparently he got his arm up to block, but he still suffered a concussion and nerve damage in the arm. And then backstage, because of the concussion, he tripped off the stairs and twisted his ankle. Johnny doesn't care about any of that. He challenges Aries to actually come out on his own at Bound for Glory. Aries reminds him that he already beat him, and he guarantees that Moose and Killer Cross will not be at ringside and will not interfere, because he doesn't need them to beat Johnny Impact. And he asks Johnny Impact who he is this week. Are you Johnny Impact, or are you Johnny Nitro? Are you Johnny Mundo, Johnny Survivor, Boone the Bounty Hunter? He tells him, you put your eggs in all these different baskets, but I'm just a wrestler. That's all I am. I wrestle, and I'm the best, And he does that whole, he's done this promo before about, Johnny looks like a superstar, looks like he should be world champion. That's all it is. It's all looks. He's a great pretend wrestler, but Aries is the real deal. He's the real wrestler. He's the best. We know how it goes. It's fantastic. He does it so well. He does it better than anyone. He says, he says that at Bound for Glory, Johnny's gonna come out with the $20,000 coat and the really nice tights and all the sequins and all the flash. And then Aries is going to come out with plain black trunks, plain black boots, none of the flash, and he's just going to beat him because he doesn't need any of that stuff. And then he points out, he's like, Johnny, you can't beat me, so why don't you just do what my last opponent did? Do like Moose did and just join me. Before the last name you have to take is Johnny 205, which actually got a reaction from the Mexican crowd, which was nice. Why don't you just do the smart thing and join me? Johnny says he'd rather walk into Bound for Glory and roll out on a stretcher than ever follow Aries around. He says it with a bunch of Mexican expletives, though, which pops the crowd. Aries cheap shots Johnny, and Johnny fights back and closes the segment holding up the title. This was a nice little build for their match at Bound for Glory. They're doing a similar build to what they did with Moose in terms of, Aries being the best wrestler and claiming that no one else can touch him, and it's kind of true, and he's probably not going to need the other guys at ringside. It's going to be a really, really good match, but we are expecting Austin Aries to hold on to the title at Bound for Glory. We then get Brian Cage backstage telling OVE, okay, you don't want to wait for Bound for Glory tonight. I'm going to come out there and destroy every one of you. He says he's going to kick all their asses with or without the Lucha Brothers, and then he does a pose. His promos are good, not great. The pose at the end is really weird, but it was, it was what it was. It's a fun quick little promo to set up something that's going to happen later. It did its job. Then we get the Desi Hit Squad backstage talking to each other about their losing streak and not being good enough. Garma Singh comes over and beats them with a stick and says they're going to face off next week to see who the weak link is. I don't know if this means the weak link just gets extra beatings or if the weak link is going to be kicked from the team. If they're kicked from the team, who are they going to get replaced by? Maybe Samir Singh? What happened to Samir Singh, right? There was another Singh brother in WWE, I'm sure of it. No, I think he's injured when he went through the table. Anyway. We get the GWN flashback. It's Hogan versus Sting for control of the company. Gross. No one wants to see this. But at least it only goes for like a minute, and then they come straight back to the show. Scarlett Bordeaux is backstage for the smoke show. Jack Evans approaches her, so does some cat luchador who I'm not familiar with. And they're like, trying to impress her so that she'll sign them. She keeps going through the backstage area. She comes across Petey Williams and Trevor Lee. They give her a seat. She sits down. Petey Williams says he's going to do something he's never done before. He's going to show her the secret to the Canadian Destroyer. So he gets her to open her legs, and he's going to put his head between her legs so that she can put her arms around his waist. Trevor Lee says he's being a creep, and they start to argue. She tells them no fighting on the smoke show. If you're going to fight, go fight outside. So they leave. This is just more building of her mythos, the mythos around Scarlett Bordeaux, that she is this, she has this aura, that just affects people, and they start acting strange, they start acting different to how they normally would. People will get in fights when they normally wouldn't. It was a really good segment, and it really adds to her character. I really like where they're going with Scarlett Bordeaux. Then we get a pre-tape Lucha Brothers promo about OVE being stupidos. They ask if they really want to take on the Lucha Brothers in Mexico. Tonight, they're going to see them in the ring. So it looks like this is going to happen. We're going to get a 6-man brawl to close the show. Then we get Kiera Hogan and Ali. They come down for a one-on-one match that Kiera Hogan has with Su Yung. This is, of course, because she pinned her in the tag match a couple of weeks ago. I like Kiera Hogan. I don't know why. I just feel like she has something, and this was a pretty decent match. She gets some good offense in. The Undead Bridesmaid stops Kiera on the top rope, though, and Ali makes the save, but it's enough of a distraction for Su Yung to grab her down, hit the panic switch, and get the win. The Bridesmaids bring out the coffin, and Ali comes in for the save to beat down Sue, but the Undead Maid of Honor jumps her, and the numbers advantage is too much, so Sue hits the Mandible Claw and tries to put Ali in the coffin. Hogan comes back for the save. She, pulls Ali out of the way, and then she gets hit with the Mandible Claw, and Kiera Hogan gets put in the coffin instead. Then after the break, we come back to Ali backstage, and she's freaking out and, having PTSD flashes of all the friends that she's lost to the coffin, seeing Rosemary get put in, seeing Akira get put in, seeing all these things that have happened. Now, it's very interesting the way they do this because it's like a movie, we're seeing the PTSD flashes as they happen in her head. It's really cool the way they do it. I quite enjoy it. Again, a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, oh, this is a wrestling show. How can we see what's in her head? It's still a TV show, man. You're watching this on TV. Just break down that suspension of disbelief and enjoy it like you would Luke Cage or like you would Iron Fist, both of which I have yet to watch. I might try to watch those later today. Moving on, we get a Tessa and Taya promo package. Basically everything that's happened so far with Tessa and Taya calling her a bitch and the whole thing that happened with the challenge and building up their match at Bound for Glory. I'm not sure why Taya hasn't actually appeared on screen. There must be something going on, but, she's not there, so it is what it is. We get a promo package. Then OVE come to the ring, and Sami Callihan tells the crowd to shut their mouth. Impact Management let us do what we want, so at Bound for Glory, it's going to be OVE rules. But we don't want to wait, so he calls out the Lucha Brothers. He calls out Cage. He wants a match right now. They come out. Match gets underway. Chaos ensues immediately. The Crisps get sent to the outside. The Technicos all triple team Sami Callihan. When Sami Callihan comes face to face with Brian Cage, he pulls the referee down, which leads to a DQ. So that's the end of the match there. The two teams continue to fight with the Lucha Brothers and Brian Cage mostly getting the upper hand. Cage hits a deadlift superplex to the outside onto the masses. And then Phoenix hits a corkscrew plancha from the barricade, which is elevated. They continue to brawl around ringside as the show goes off air. Very exciting way to hype up the 6-man tag. It's not the only 6-man tag on the show, though. You've also got LAX and Conan versus the OGs and King, so having 2 6-man tags on the biggest pay-per-view of the year is a little strange. Plus, we're only less than a week out from Bound for Glory, and it doesn't feel like a big show. Like, Slammiversary definitely felt much bigger than Bound for Glory, which is why I say Slammiversary should be like their WrestleMania if they're going to have a WrestleMania, but it really is Bound for Glory. But this one just didn't feel like it. It really didn't. It's not feeling exciting yet. Maybe after next week. I think next week's is to go home, and then we get the actual pay-per-view. So maybe next week's will get me more excited as we head into the actual show. That's Impact for this week, and that is the Impact Zone for this week. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for episode 100 of the B Plus podcast, where I'm going to talk to Probably Big Boy Mikey, at least. Hopefully Big Boy Mikey and CJ, the regular J, as I said, needs to get his computer fixed before we can talk again. So he won't be there, but we'll be talking to those two. And we've also sent out feelers for anyone who listens to the show, anyone who likes us on Facebook, shares our posts, whatever. If you were at the Super Showdown, we want to hear from you. So send me a DM, message the page, hit me up on Instagram, wherever you want to do it. And I'll give you my details so you can send through a voice memo of your experience when you were at Super Showdown, and we can throw that into the show. Hopefully we'll get some cool little thoughts and opinions from everyone, all the B+ players out there who went to the Super Showdown, because I know there were a lot of us there. I had people come up and say hi. It was really nice. It was really strange being noticed at a wrestling show, but it was awesome. So definitely, if you were at the Super Showdown and you want to feature on the podcast tomorrow's big 100th episode Super Showdown Super Extravaganza, please hit us up on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. You can find me at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are known as the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, etc., etc. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you feel so inclined, and thank you ever so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
So, no speak English.
Dummy.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy.
Hold three. The moss covered. Three handle family